Good afternoon. The Committee on Finance and Taxation, General Government Operations, and Youth Development now convenes this hearing. In accordance with the Open Government Law, public notices for today's proceedings were sent to the media on February 22nd, 2016, and again on February 26, 2016. For the record, today is February 29th, 2016. The time is now 2:06 in the afternoon. The committee will hear and accept testimony, both oral and written, on the following item. Bill number 267-33, introduced by Vice Speaker B.J. Cruz, an act to repeal Chapter 38, Title 11, Guam Code Annotated, entitled Tax Credit in Lieu of Cash Payment. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the senators present with me this afternoon. To my immediate left is Senator Emeritus, the Vice Chair of the committee, and to my immediate right is Vice Speaker B.J. Cruz, the author of Bill 267. At this time, I'd like to yield the floor to the Vice Speaker for him to make an opening statement on Bill 267.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for expediting the hearing on this bill. As you know, I attempted to try to include a repeal of this chapter in a bill that we were discussing during the last session. And you did a very valiant effort in trying to revive it for me. But I think it was very well stated by our colleagues that it really did need to have a public hearing. And I believe everybody has been given notice of this. And we're all invited to this hearing, so I'm really surprised that there aren't people here. But I became very concerned about this issue of tax credits because the public auditor has, for at least the last almost 10 years now, been issuing reports and recommending to the legislature that it do something about the tax credits. And unfortunately, we did not do anything about the tax credits, and most recently there was the condemnation of the lead zone properties for the solid waste facility. It was initially appraised at about $3 million. That's how much was put into the account of the court when they moved for the condemnation of the property. When the case finally went to trial, the judgment came out $23 million, I think. To date, the government has paid $10 million in interest payments alone. And consequently, the cost of that property has gone well over $30 million to the government. And I became additionally concerned when the governor's office, through its legal counsel, Sandra Miller, responded to Mr. David Manning in a letter dated just earlier this month, February the 10th, where David Manning had asked a number of questions about the utilization of the tax credits and the lead zone. And I was very, very concerned, Mr. Chairman, with two answers in the questions. And it's number 8 and number 9. In number 8, Mr. Manning asked, is there an expiration date on any of the unused tax credits? And Ms. Miller's response was no. Credits in excess of taxes may be carried over to the next succeeding tax month or year. At all times, the taxpayer retains the right to elect to either use or not use any carryover credits, or to revoke his election to receive tax credits in lieu of cash payments, which means they can hold on to this and use it wherever they want. Then the next question Mr. Manning asked was, does the judgment continue to accrue interest on its unpaid balance? And her response, and Ms. Miller's response from the governor's office, was yes, the legal rate of interest is 6%. And as I had explained to you, what we thought was going to be a $3 million condemnation turned out to be a $23 million judgment plus $10 million in interest. totaling over $30 million, which was 10 times the amount that was originally anticipated. In a bill that we were hearing last week, there's a possibility that we may be granting and having condemnations of properties in excess of 500 million, if not 700 million. And I just want to read the Chapter 38 that I'm asking that we repeal. And it's section 1 of, it's Chapter 38 of the Title 11. And it reads, notwithstanding any law or rule and regulation to the contrary, when the government of Guam cannot make cash payments for the acquisition of privately owned property due to the unavailability of funds or for any other reason, the owner of such property acquired by the government may elect to receive tax credits in lieu of cash on any taxes except income taxes payable to the government in an amount equivalent to the cash compensation for the property. And Section 38-102 says the Director of Revenue and Taxation shall, pursuant to the Administrative Adjudication Act, formulate rules and regulations to implement the provision of Section 38-101. And so what would happen, Mr. Chairman and fellow colleagues, is that since we know we don't have the cash to be able to pay for the lands that were inversely condemned over the last 40 years, we could possibly face a judgments close to $700 million, accruing interest at 6%, and then having people be able to elect to utilize those tax credits anywhere within our budget. Our budget is just over $700 million. They could wipe out the entire budget if they decided to do it all in 1 year in the various tax credits. But the more frightening thing, Mr. Chairman, as I tried to explain on the floor last week, was if they decided to use it all in hotel occupancy taxes, we may have no tourist attraction funds, and so consequently that would wipe out everything that we're doing in the tourism industry. If the tax credits are utilized to pay for real estate taxes, we could wipe out the Territorial Education Facilities Fund, which is, as you know, utilized for our education system, and consequently, rather than being short $3 million or $5 million like we were last year, we'd be short $21 million in tax credits in TEFF. Or if it's taken in alcohol and tobacco taxes, we may not have any money to be able to do the Healthy Futures funds, helping the hospital, helping public health and social services, and various other nonprofits that we assist through Healthy Futures Fund. So consequently, it's an impossible way to run government. We should either pay for it in cash or find out where the money's going to come from. And I'm sure whatever money we were to try to get, if it was to be a bond to pay for all of it, it would be less than the 6% that the interest is on this one. So I'm hoping that as a result of this hearing that we will be able to repeal Chapter 38 as is recommended in Bill 267-33. I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to give that very extended opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Speaker. Actually, it was a very well-done opening statement necessary to fully understand why the bill is so important and why the committee is expediting its hearing, and we'll prepare the committee report post-haste so we can report it out for our next available session. We don't have any individuals from the community present to testify on the bill. We have no individuals who've signed up, and no written testimony has been transmitted to the committee so far. We will go ahead and leave the record open for the next 10 working days or until the next legislative session, whichever comes first. Do any of my colleagues have any other comments or statements they'd like to make concerning the bill at this time? If not, we'll go ahead and conclude. I'm sorry. Okay. If not, we'll go ahead and conclude the hearing on Bill 267, and we can go ahead and adjourn this committee's hearing at 2:15 this afternoon. Thank you very much.